What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way, Season 5, Episode 5, My So-Called Wi-Fi. So let's talk about Brandon and Mary. Now, what I don't understand with Brandon and Mary right off the bat, why do they ask for permission to sleep in the same room if, number one, nothing happened, and number two, Mary ended up going into the living room? I didn't understand that because I thought that they wanted to sleep in the same room. Obviously, they weren't going to go all the way because, for various reasons, she wasn't ready. The grandparents were in the house, but I thought that they would have wanted to sleep in the same room so that they can continue to cuddle and kiss and just be close to one another. So what was the point of wanting to sleep in the same room and in the same bed if they had to sleep head to toe with a pillow in between them? He could have slept in the living room. He could have slept on I just didn't understand why they asked for permission to do that when they didn't even want to cuddle or hold each other or do anything. So, well, she didn't. He did. So she ends up sleeping in the living room because she said his feet kept on bumping her in the head. Brandon was really upset. Well, he wasn't really upset, but he didn't like the fact that she went into the living room to go sleep. He thought that maybe, she didn't want to be close to him, or it says something about how she felt about him. No, it was just that your big feet were kept on bumping her in the head. Nothing more, nothing less. So Mary says that it's different being with him in person and that she, doesn't really want to be intimate with him. And I wonder what she meant by that. It was a very vague statement that she made. Like, it's different when he's actually here in person. Kind of like she's not that impressed by him. Seeing him is not what she thought it would be. It didn't meet her expectations or what. I don't know what she meant by that. So at breakfast, she ends up feeding him and she says that she wants him to get bigger because chubbier men are more huggable. That was to me also like a strange statement because she knows his body size, right? So was he smaller than what she expected him to be, or does she want him to be fat so that other women wouldn't want him? Like, I didn't understand why she said that. Like, why can't she just accept him for how he is? Why is she trying to make him chubbier? So on the agenda for the day, Brandon was supposed to go learn how to farm with grandfather. And so Brandon, he wants to tell so that was the agenda. The grandfather's going to teach him how to farm. Before all of that, though, he tells Mary that he wants to tell the grandfather that they had kissed at the airport. And Mary was like, no, you don't have to tell him that. That's not necessary because we had told him that nothing happened. So now we're going to go back and we're going to look like liars. So she doesn't want to look like a liar to her grandparents. And so he was like, I don't want to walk around eggshells with your grandparents. I want to be transparent, open, honest. So I think we should tell them that we kissed at the airport. Why? I didn't get that. Maybe, you know what it is? Probably because he's like, they're going to see it anyway on TV. And so he doesn't want his reputation, I guess, to be tarnished if it comes out when they go back and watch the show, if they're going to watch the show, that he lied to them. So maybe that's why he wanted to tell them. So they go out to the rice fields. Brandon thought that they were going to go probably cut branches or they were going to harvest fruit. No, honey. They were out there in the sludge, in the mud, trying to get the ground ready to, I guess, plant rice. So he wanted to wear these galoshes or rain boots. And Mary was like, no, you really don't need to. He was like, yeah, I insist, I want to wear them. So he gets out there into the mud and like 3 steps in, he loses his boots. They get stuck in the mud. So he has to do the rest of it barefoot. But anyways, he was a good sport about it. He acted enthusiastic about it. Like he really wanted to help. He really wanted to impress the grandfather that he's willing to work hard. And so that was good. He didn't complain about that. So, let me see. So Brandon tells the grandfather that he really wants to prove to him that, he's a man, that he can help with the farm and do everything that he's supposed to do, and that he really wants to earn the grandfather's respect. So Brandon still is insisting on telling the grandfather that they kissed at the airport. So Mary was like, okay, if you want to tell him, you're going to be the one to tell him. I'm not going to tell him for you. I'll translate, but it's going to be you telling him. So he goes for it. So they tell the grandfather that when they met at the airport, they kissed. The grandfather was not pleased about that. And he basically, was like, well, now that you've kissed her, you're going to have to marry her. And so Brandon was like, excuse me, huh? What? Yeah, now that you've kissed her, you're going to have to marry her. And so Brandon is like, it was only just a kiss. Now we're talking about, and the grandfather didn't just say you have to marry. The grandfather was like, you're going to start planning the wedding, and then we're going to schedule a date. That's how serious the grandfather was about them, kissing. He was like, you're not going to sit up here and treat my daughter like a cheap whore. You are going to marry her. Now that you've kissed her, y'all are going to get married. So Brandon says that they still have a lot of issues to work out regarding their jealousy and their controlling ways. Too late. You kissed her. You're going to have to marry her. Moving on. So they're going to go to the beach now to meet up with Mary's friends, Pong, Jello, and Pudding. So Pong starts off by saying that he doesn't like how Brandon never let Mary hang out with them. And Brandon says, well, y'all don't understand. Just as much as I was controlling with her, she was that controlling with me. She wouldn't let me hang out with any of my friends, male or female. I couldn't even hang out with family members. So it's a two-way street with us. So they talk about Brandon's jealousy towards them. And he says, I felt bad that when I was asleep, the thought of her hanging out with y'all and having fun with y'all, I didn't like it. So yeah, I didn't want her hanging out with y'all. So the friend then tells Brandon that Mary would unplug her Wi-Fi to go hang out with them and lie to Brandon and say that there was a power outage whenever her phone would disconnect. So Brandon was obviously really shocked about this. So he looked at her and he was like, are you serious? Is this true? And of course, she puts on the victim act. Woe is me. Oh, they're my friends and I've known them all my life. And, I had nothing to do. When you would go to sleep, I'd be so bored. And the waterworks start. And so she completely manipulated the situation. And, he hugs her and kisses her. And he's like, oh, I understand, Mary. I understand. You can hang out with your friends. It's okay, Mary. You can hang out with your friends. But this wasn't before he told her. There's still a double standard. Okay. Because the double standard being that you were telling me I can't do A, B, C, D, and here you are doing the things that if I were to do them, you would have been really upset about. So after, the waterworks and she's crying, and he comforts her and kisses her, everything is fine. They're fine. They're doing good. But to me, she's extremely manipulative. She's a very young girl, but she comes, this whole thing of, oh, I'm a virgin. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to be intimate with you. But she knows the ways of the world because she knows how to manipulate men. This is her second real relationship because, her first, she's only had one other relationship other than Brandon. And that guy cheated on her 10 times. Maybe she learned her manipulating ways from her past boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend who cheated on her with 10 different women. But I see her as just very she's very manipulative with her grandparents, telling Brandon, oh, you got to tell my grandfather that we didn't kiss at the airport. She's very manipulative with Brandon, cutting off the Wi-Fi to go hang out with her friends. Then she turns on the waterworks to make him feel bad. It's like you were the one that violated y'all's weird codes and rules and regulations. And now he's the one that feels bad. He's the one that feels like, like he's the bad guy now because you were cutting off your Wi-Fi. She's extremely manipulative, and I don't think Brandon is ready for her. I think Brandon sees her as a sweet little innocent young girl. She's not that. She is extremely manipulative. Moving on to TJ and Kimberly. So TJ comes back and he tries to make amends. He's back upstairs in that damn room that she's been in for like 11 days. He comes back upstairs and he tries to make amends once again. He encourages her to come outside and go for a walk. So he's talking to her very sweet, very gentle. He doesn't want to rock the boat anymore with her. So he tries to let her know, hey, let's go outside, get some fresh air and take a walk. So they go outside, they take a walk, and they get an opportunity to have a conversation about their issues. So they do both admit that they need to learn how to communicate better with one another. She says she's going to try to cuss less. He says he's going to try to listen more to her. And she does still ask for a window and a door for the bathroom. And he was like, no problem. I got you. I'll get you the window and we'll fix the door. It's not a big issue. So, they talk about how involved his family is, because she didn't like how he went downstairs to tell the family that they were arguing. And he says, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk to my family about our problems because they want to know what's going on with me. They're concerned about me. And yes, that's going to happen. So the whole wedding process in India is like a week-long event. So there's a whole bunch of celebrations and rituals and stuff that lead up to the day of the wedding. So that's the part that we're at right now. So Kim comes down to participate with the first, I don't know what it is, the first celebration, the first ritual. She feels the tension with the mother because this is the first time that she's come down. So she's arrived. So she comes downstairs and she definitely feels the tension. And the mom ain't playing. The mom said that, she doesn't like how things are going so far between her son and Kimberly. She sees Kimberly for what she is. She does see her as a bit rude. So the mom isn't going to sugarcoat things when she's talking in her confessional. She doesn't say these things directly to Kimberly, but in her confessional, she lets her feelings be known. So earlier in the day, Kimberly had sent a text message to the mom apologizing for yelling. And I'm like, why did you send her? Why didn't you just come down and talk to her? I don't understand. Why didn't you just come down and have a conversation with her and talk to her? You're only upstairs. You're not in the United States. Come down and have a conversation with your mother-in-law. So later on, there's another celebration for the wedding. So everybody's, it's like a big party, food, guests, music, the whole shebang. TJ and Kim, they take an opportunity to go talk outside. And when they're talking outside, TJ says that he's very appreciative that Kim is putting in the effort and she's being so positive with all of these gatherings and rituals and whatever they're doing. She is putting in the effort. She is acting very positive about it. She's accepting everything. So then Kim asks him, what should she expect to do as a wife? Like my day-to-day life, what does that look like? What should I be expecting? And he didn't want to tell her too much because he didn't want her to get upset and run her off. But so he really minimized exactly what was going to be expected of her. He was like, oh, you'll be waking up, like around 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe washing a couple of dishes. You've been here before. You know how it is in a typical Indian household. Nothing too challenging, nothing too hard because you've seen how it is. And even that little bit that he told her, and as much as he tried to minimize it, she was still like, yeah, I don't think so. That's not for me. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing none of that. So she said she ain't having any of that. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out because we have seen that he's definitely not submit. TJ goes toe to toe with Kimberly. He argues right back with her. So when she puts her foot down and says, I don't want to wake up at the crack of dawn to, cook and clean and do all this other stuff and serve your family because I didn't go to college to do this. So I'm really curious to see how TJ is going to respond. And is it fair for TJ to expect that of Kim, even though that's their culture and that's what they do? Is it fair for him to think, okay, I think she went to college. I think she's got college degrees. Is it fair for him to expect his wife just to be a housewife with all the education that she has, coming from the background that she's come from? Is it fair for him to expect that? Is it fair for Kimberly to expect to live in another country and think that she's not going to follow that culture? Is that realistic of her to be like, I'm going to go to India, but I'm still going to live my westernized life? Is that realistic? I don't think it really is. I've always been of the belief that when you go to another country, you follow what they do. You do what they do because you have to show respect. You're the guest on their homeland. You're the guest in their country. And so you have to follow their rules. You can't go there and bulldoze your way through and act like, I'm not going to respect anything that's going on here. I'm not going to follow anything that's going on here. I'm going to live the way that I was living back in America. I'm going to talk how I want to talk, dress how I want to dress, act like how I want to act, just like I'm in the grand old US of A. I don't think that's rude, disrespectful. I don't think you can do that. So I don't know how this is going to play out between these two people. So they're going later on, not later on, but the next time that we see Kim, she goes bangle shopping with TJ. She has to have, like, some really nice bangles for her wedding. So she goes bangle shopping with TJ's brother. And Mary describes her relationship with her future brother in law as, cordial. Okay, meaning that they don't get along, they don't like each other, they barely tolerate each other. So they get a chance to talk. The conversation starts off talking about garlic. She talks about how I don't forgot exactly in what context, but I think it was in the context of she's not going to be allowed to do a lot of things that she's used to doing. For example, she can't have garlic and onions. So the brother-in-law says that, they have definitely accommodated her because look, TJ built this whole entire suite for you above the family home because you refused to live with us. So she says that, it's not really because she can't cook what she wants. No, he says it's got nothing to do with the food. It's the fact that, when we eat, we offer our food or something to Ganesh. I think, did he say Ganesh, to a god that they follow? We offer our food to him, so it's disrespectful to offer him certain types of food. So it's a cultural thing. It's not like we're just telling you because we don't like it, you can't have it. It's all has to do with our culture and the tradition that we follow. She says, well, that's why she didn't want to live with them. Now, when she said, oh, that's why I don't want to live with you, he kind of was like taken aback by that. He was kind of like, huh? Like, it kind of shocked him that she said that. And so he says, TJ has done so much for you. And she says, well, I've done so much for him because I've sacrificed a lot. I've left my whole entire life behind. I've left my whole entire family behind. So I've also sacrificed for him as well. So the brother-in-law says, look, we can't go making a list of who's done what more for the other person. So the brother-in-law says, in India, we don't have this thing of individuality. We don't have this thing of liberty and freedom. We don't have that. We respect each other. We give up our individuality for the common good. Whatever you want does not matter. You have to do what's good for everybody. So they start arguing. They're going back and forth because she says she doesn't want to lose her individuality. In her confessional, she says, I hope that I don't lose myself in this Indian culture. So her and the brother-in-law, they're arguing. They're going back and forth. And he slipped up and called her stupid. And she was like, hold up, did you call me stupid? And he was like, no, I said what you're thinking or what you're doing is stupid. You have stupid ways or something like that. He tried to kind of like change it around, but he did call her stupid. And so Kim was like, don't you dare ever in life call me stupid again. And that's where the segment ended. So with that type of animosity between the two of them and that type of contention between the two of them, I don't know how in the world they're gonna, it feels like another Sumit and Jenny where she's gonna probably try to convince him to leave his family for them to do their own thing and live their own life away from the family. And he's gonna be doing, the Harlem Shuffle, bouncing back and forth between Kim and his family. Y'all, I just don't understand. Either like the women, the American women that want to be with these Indian men, like, why do y'all put these men through this? Like, why can't you respect their culture and allow them to respect their families? And if you don't like that, then don't be with an Indian man, or don't be with an Indian man who is still traditional and wants to follow his culture. Like, I don't understand. It's the same thing with Sumit and Jenny, the same thing with the other Jen and the one that we just saw, I forgot his name, the curly hair model. And now here we are again with Kimberly and TJ. Do y'all not watch previous seasons? Did y'all never watch Sumit and Jenny? I just don't get. And then the funny thing is that Kimberly has been to India before, so she knows how it is. So why are you arguing with people? Moving on to Johan and Danielle. So Johan and Danielle, Johan, Danielle, and her friends, they're having a conversation about children. So Johan and Danielle, they talk about how they're both on the same page as far as wanting children, but they're not really on the same page as far as how these children are going to come about. Johan still believes that she can get pregnant naturally. If they do it enough, he's going to be able to get her pregnant. Danielle understands the reality of it all because of her age and because of when she had gone to the doctor with Johan previously. The doctor had told her that her egg quality and her egg quantity was low. So she's accepting the science, and she understands that it's not going to be that easy. They're going to need medical intervention. Before they take that step into IVF and donor eggs, Johan is like, you know what, I need to get another opinion from the doctor. So the friends talk about how, y'all have to be really stable as a couple before you bring children into the world, and stable. You have to be stable financially. I feel like her friends are just too involved. So they came to the DR just to give them advice. Like, I'm not understanding why they're not trying to have a good time with Johan and Danielle. Johan and Danielle are grown. They're adults. Danielle is extremely bossy. Okay, she's got this whole relationship under her own control. She doesn't need advice from these two women. I hate it whenever they get together and their friends are like, so what's going on financially? So what's going on with the children? So what are y'all going to do about money? You can't just wake up at 12 o'clock and then do nothing all day and go to the beach. Like, why not? They can do whatever the hell they want to do. You're not paying their bills. Get out of their business and just enjoy DR. So, anywho, they all go to the river to hang out with Johan and his family. Danielle hates the river because it messes up her pH balance or something. So she hates the river. But Johan is happy to be around his family. I mean, when Johan is around his family, he's like a different person. He's not as, he's not so uptight. He's totally chill, relaxed. His smile and his laugh is genuine. His family brings out the best in him. So Danielle's friends, they felt very welcomed by Johan's family. Everybody was having a good time except for Danielle because she's worried about her pH balance. Danielle wants her future kids to have the best of both worlds. She wants them to live in the DR, but she also wants them to have like an American life. She wants them to go to the best schools, and they have the best this and the best that, and she wants them to have extracurricular activities. And then she says that Johan needs to step it up. Here we go again. First of all, why did Johan quit his job at the resort? It seems like that was a really good job. He got to do what he loved, which was fitness, because he was like a fitness instructor there. It paid good money. It was good working conditions. Why did that job end? I completely missed that. Why did he stop working at the damn resort? Because Danielle doesn't want him to be around, these Western women who are going to try to take him away from her. Like, what was the reason why he quit that job? Because every episode now, it's always talking about, money, finances, jobs, employment. Why can't he just go back and work at the resort? I feel like Danielle has unrealistic expectations about what life is going to be like in the DR. I think that, she needs to convince him to go back to the resort. I don't know what else to say. Moving on to Julio and Kirsten. So it's the day after their Halloween fight. They're on their way to, I forgot where they were going. They're going somewhere. They're in the car driving, and Julio asks her, well, did you have fun last night? And Kirsten was like, yeah, until you started talking about us not living together. And so he tries to backpedal now. He's like, oh, I didn't mean that that's what's going to happen. It was just an option that I was just throwing out there. And then he tries to blame it on his friend. He was like, I don't think I was the one that suggested us living apart. I think it was my friend. And Kirsten was like, well, if it was your friend, you co-signed to it because you looked at me and asked me if that was a good idea for us to live apart. So he's trying to backpedal. He's trying to be like, well, I take it back. I didn't really mean it. You can't undo what you did. Okay. I don't know if you were drinking. I don't know if you were serious, but when you looked at her and said to her, like, what do you think about that if we lived apart? It seemed like you were dead serious. Like you were dead serious. So I don't know what you're talking about, Julio, right now in this moment. So Kirsten now has a really good eye on him. Now she's beginning to question everything about him. So Julio says in his confessional that things are moving kind of fast. And, what do you mean? You're the one that wanted to go live. You're the one that was making all these plans without telling your family. You're the one that suggested to her that you wanted to go live in the Netherlands. But now you're saying things are moving too fast. So they're at, oh, that's where they were going. They're going to breakfast. So they're at breakfast. And the question came up about what is he going to miss the most about New York. And he says, I'm really going to miss the pizza, the food, etc. So he asks her, you can't see yourself living here at all? And she's like, nope. Mm-mm. And so then she asks him, where is this coming from? And he says in his confessional that he's realizing everything that he's giving up. You know, his family, his friends, the food, all this stuff he's going to be giving up when he moves. But Julio, it was your idea to go to the Netherlands. That was your idea. You talk about how you never saw yourself settling down and having a family in America. You always saw yourself settling down in another country. What are you talking about? Why are you? Is it because when the cameras are gone, your family is like, they just kind of like swarm in on you and they all are trying to attack you and convince you to stay in New York and not go to the Netherlands and to rethink everything? Like, I'm not understanding where this is coming from. I'm just as confused as Kirsten is. So he asks her if she'll consider staying longer or coming back for another visit to kind of fill New York out to see whether or not she would want to stay here. Julio, what are you talking? You're the one that said you wanted to live in another country. I'm not understanding why you keep asking her if she wants to stay. Moving on, Kenny and Armando. So Armando has a chance to talk to his mother one-on-one, and they talk about the year that he had left San Felipe and the difficulty of him coming out of the closet. He said that he was, he felt like ending it all. Hannah's mom passing away, the family not supporting him. It was a lot for him, and that was a really bad year for him. And he says the only thing that kept him going was his daughter Hannah, because he couldn't imagine her living without either one of her parents. So the mom, obviously, she was like, felt really bad. She's a good mom. She's a really good mom. Sometimes I think that Kenny is a little bit too harsh on Armando's family, because, Kenny has been through a lot as well. He talks about his whole journey, about coming out and being accepted and all the battles that he had to fight just to be seen as a regular, normal human being who just happened to be attracted to the same gender. He's had a struggle, and he's overcome his struggles somewhat because the challenges are still there, but he has come a very long way. And so he's at that point where he's like, you know what, to hell with everybody, live your life. Kenny isn't quite there yet, because he came out a little bit more recently than Kenny, and because of the whole cultural thing, not really accepting or embracing LGBTQ, it's harder for Armando, and it's extremely harder for his family. And I don't think Kenny is that sensitive or that understanding, because when Kenny had said in last week's episode, this is not about her, I felt like that was a little bit harsh. Obviously, they're not doing this to hurt the mother on purpose, but I think they also have to be a little bit sensitive to what she's going through, because I see the mother trying. It'd be a completely different story if the mom wasn't even trying. If the mom was just like, you know what, no child of mine is gay. I don't accept it. I don't want it. You need to change, or you're not my son anymore. She's not like that. She's trying to process it. She's trying to understand. She loves her son so much that she's open-minded about it. She's accepted Kenny, accepted that they're together. So she's still, she's still in it. Okay, she hasn't been to the other side yet. She's still trying to accept everything. And so when the mother began crying, when Armando was telling his mom about how he wanted to harm himself, he didn't want to be alive anymore, I felt like that broke her heart in a million pieces, to know that her son was suffering, regardless of what was causing his suffering. But just to know that her son was suffering so bad emotionally, it broke her into a million pieces, because the way she was crying and the way that she was hugging him and the way that she kept on saying, I love you, over and over and over again, she really needed him to know and to understand that I don't care about none of that. I just want you alive and happy and healthy, and I love you. You're my child, you're my son, you're my boy. And she just kept on constantly trying to reassure him that her love is always there for him. It was a really beautiful moment to me. It was extremely emotional. Armando explains why moving to Mexico City will be better. He says, because of Hannah, she's going to be going to better schools. It's going to be offering a whole lot more for her. And also because the potential of him and Kenny having another child, that it would be easier to find a surrogate in Mexico City. So yeah, I think that Kenny should be a little bit more, just as much as he wants to be understood, I think he also has to understand where the mother is coming from as well, that this woman is definitely trying. But anyways, that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.